I never thought a single word could make you feel orphaned at 23. Not, goodbye. Not, sorry. Not even, I don't love you. No. The word was, Dad. Because my father looked me dead in the face and said, can you stop calling me that? I'm writing this because I genuinely don't know if I'm being cruel or if I finally stopped being a doormat. Everyone in my family has an opinion, and half of them weren't even there when he said it. My phone has been a war zone of texts, and I'm starting to question my own memory like I'm the crazy one. So here it is. From the beginning. My mom is gone. My dad is, technically alive. And somehow I'm the villain for not letting him erase me. My mom died 2 years ago. Cancer. Fast and ugly. The kind that makes you learn how to smile while your insides are screaming. I was the one who took her to appointments, the one who sat up with her at night when she couldn't sleep, the one who learned to change sheets without making her feel embarrassed. I was the one who held her hand at the end. My father was around, but only in the way a ghost is around, occasionally drifting in, saying a few reassuring things, then disappearing before anything actually hard needed to be done. He'd show up with flowers, take a photo with her, tell people he was being strong, and then leave because work was crazy. I didn't press it. I didn't have energy to fight. And honestly, my mom still loved him in that quiet, painful way people love someone who keeps letting them down. Before she died, my mom made sure everything was clear. Her house, our house, was left to me. Not split. Not shared. Me. She told me why, too. Because it's the only way I can make sure you're safe, she said. And because your father will give away anything that isn't nailed down if it makes his life easier. That sentence didn't hit me until later. When she passed, the house didn't feel like a win. It felt like a museum I had to live inside. Same kitchen where she taught me how to cook, same hallway where her laugh used to bounce off the walls, same backyard where she sat with her tea and watched the sun drop like it was the only peaceful thing left. I kept it because she wanted me to. I paid the taxes, I maintained it, I didn't touch her stuff for months because moving a sweater felt like betrayal. My father didn't fight the will. Not openly. He didn't have to. He just waited. Like he always does. Waited for grief to soften me up. Waited for me to crave family enough to accept crumbs. 6 months after the funeral, he told me he was seeing someone. Her name was Dana. She was sweet. She understood him. She made him feel alive again. I said okay, because what else do you say to a man who's already emotionally moved on? Then he asked if Dana could come to dinner. I agreed. I cleaned like the house was going to be judged. I made my mom's old recipe for pot roast because I thought maybe it would make the night feel grounded. Like we were still something. Dana showed up with a bright smile and eyes that assessed everything too quickly. Me, the house, the framed photos, the way my father hovered a little closer to her than he ever hovered near my mother in years. She was polite, but not warm. She asked what I did for work, nodded, then changed the subject. She commented on the house like it was a listing. This is such a great place, she said. So much character. My dad laughed like she'd said something adorable. Right? Your mom had great taste, he said, and the way he said your mom instead of my wife made my stomach tighten. Dinner was fine. Not good. Not terrible. Fine. Like sitting through a meeting you didn't schedule. Then Dana looked at one of the photos in the living room. It was me as a kid, maybe 8, sitting on my dad's shoulders at a fair. My mom took that picture. I remember because she made us stop so she could get the lighting right. It's one of the only photos where my dad looks fully present. Dana pointed. Who's that? She asked, even though it was obviously me. My dad said my name. Dana's smile stayed in place, but her eyes did this tiny flicker like she'd just found a stain on a white shirt. Oh, she said. Right. And that should have been my first clue that she didn't want me in the frame. Literally. 3 months later, they got engaged. Quick. So quick I thought maybe I missed some chapters. He told me over the phone like he was announcing a new phone plan. She's pregnant, he added, like it was the punchline. My mouth went dry. You're going to be a dad again? He hesitated. Like the word had suddenly become complicated. I mean, he said, yeah. But it's different. You're an adult. That sentence is still stuck in my throat. They got married in a small ceremony. I was invited, but it felt like an obligation invite, like the kind you send so you can later say you did. I went anyway. I wore a suit my mom bought me before she died. I sat in the back. Dana barely looked at me. After the wedding, my dad pulled me aside. His smile looked stretched. "Hey," he said. "Can we talk?" We stepped outside. It was cold. He rubbed his hands together like he was nervous. And I remember thinking, maybe he's going to apologize for being distant. Maybe he's going to try. Instead, he cleared his throat and said, "So. Dana's a little anxious about the baby." I blinked. "Okay. She wants things to feel simple," he said. "For the baby. For us." I waited. The pause was heavy. Like he was building up to telling me I did something wrong. He finally said it, "When the baby's older, we don't want them confused. We don't want them asking questions too early." My skin went cold. Questions like what? He looked away. Like why I have another kid. And then, like he was asking me to stop chewing with my mouth open, he said, "Could you stop calling me Dad around Dana? And, eventually, around the baby?" I actually laughed because it sounded insane. "What?" I said. He kept going, faster now, like if he said it quickly it would hurt less. "Just, call me by my first name. It's not a big deal. Lots of people do that. It'll keep things peaceful." I felt like the ground shifted under me. "You want me to call you by your name because your new wife doesn't want your child to know I exist?" His jaw tightened. "It's not like that." "It's exactly like that," I said, and my voice shook. He sighed like I was being dramatic. "You don't understand how sensitive she is. She's been through a lot. That one did something to me. My mom had been through a lot. I had been through a lot. But suddenly Dana's comfort was the priority." I said, "So your solution is to erase me?" He flinched. "No. Just, keep it low-key. You're grown. This is a fresh start for me. A fresh start." Like I was a mistake he could finally put behind him. I drove home after that, and I remember gripping the steering wheel so hard my hands ached. When I walked into my mom's house, the photos on the walls felt like they were watching me. Like she was. I stood in the hallway and stared at the picture of my dad holding me when I was a baby. His face was soft in that photo. Proud. Loving. I whispered, "Was any of that real?" And then my phone buzzed. A text from my dad. "Please don't make this harder than it needs to be." I didn't reply. Because I was trying to figure out how to tell someone, "The man you called your father your whole life just asked you to stop." And it wasn't the worst part. Not even close. I wish I could say I stood my ground immediately. That I delivered some perfectly worded speech about boundaries and self-respect and then walked away into the sunset. I didn't. I went quiet. I did what I've always done with my dad, I swallowed it and tried to be understanding. I told myself he was stressed. New marriage. Baby on the way. Big changes. I told myself this was temporary. That once the baby was born, things would normalize. That was my mistake. For the next few months, I barely saw him. When I did, Dana was always there. Always hovering. Always listening. And every time I slipped and said, "Dad," my father would visibly tense, like I'd dropped a glass in a quiet room. He never corrected me out loud. He didn't have to. The look was enough. So I stopped saying it. I started using his first name. And every time I did, something inside me twisted. Like I was agreeing to my own erasure one syllable at a time. The baby was born in early spring. A girl. Healthy. Everyone was thrilled. I got a text announcement with a photo. No invitation to visit. No, she has a big brother. Just a caption that read, "Our little miracle." I stared at that word, "our," longer than I want to admit. A few weeks later, my dad finally asked me to meet up. "Just him," he said. "Coffee. Neutral territory." I almost didn't go. But some stupid hopeful part of me thought maybe this was the moment he'd realize how messed up everything had become. He was already there when I arrived. Nervous. Stirring his coffee even though he hadn't added anything to it. We talked about surface-level things at first. Work. Weather. How little sleep he was getting. He showed me photos of the baby, but the way he held his phone angled slightly away from me made it feel like I was being allowed to look, not invited to share. Then he cleared his throat. So, he said, Dana and I have been talking. There it was. I leaned back. About what? Well, the future, he said. The house. Family stuff. My stomach dropped. He continued, you know how complicated things can get. Legally. Emotionally. We just want stability for the baby. I didn't say anything. I'd learned that if I stayed quiet, people eventually told you exactly who they were. He said, Dana feels uncomfortable knowing that, well, so much of your mom's estate went to you. I stared at him. You mean the house? Yes, he said quickly. The house. I waited for him to explain why Dana's comfort mattered more than my mother's wishes. He didn't. Instead, he said, we think it would be best if you sign something. I laughed. I couldn't help it. Sign what? A waiver, he said. Just to make things clean. You already have the house. This would just confirm that you won't make any future claims. Future claims on what? I asked. He hesitated. Inheritance. Assets. Anything that could complicate things later. The coffee suddenly tasted bitter. So let me get this straight. You want me to legally give up any claim to your estate? Well, he said, it's really for the baby. I felt something snap, not explode, just quietly crack. For the baby you don't want knowing I exist? He sighed. Again with the sighing. Like I was exhausting him. You're being emotional. I leaned forward. You asked me to stop calling you dad. You're hiding me from your kid. And now you want me to sign away my inheritance. For free. It's not about money, he said immediately. I almost choked. Then what is it about? Peace, he said. Dana needs peace. She worries that someday you'll show up and make things messy. By existing? I asked. He didn't answer. Then he added, casually, like it was a favor, we also wanted to talk about the house. There it was. The real target. You mean my house, I said. He winced. Your mom's house. No, I said. My house. Legally. In writing. Signed and witnessed. He nodded. Yes, yes. Of course. But Dana thinks it would make sense for us to live there. I laughed again. This time it wasn't nervous. It was sharp. You already have a place, I said. It's small, he replied. And the neighborhood isn't ideal for a child. I stared at him, waiting for the punchline. We were thinking, he continued, that since you're young, you could rent something. Or stay with friends for a while. You don't really need all that space. My hands were shaking. So you want me to move out of the house my dying mother left me, so you and your new wife can raise a child you don't want knowing about me, after I sign away my inheritance. He opened his mouth, closed it, then said, when you put it like that, it sounds bad. I stood up. I'm leaving, I said. He reached for my arm. Don't overreact. I pulled away. Don't contact me about this again. For a few weeks, he didn't. And in that silence, I started to grieve something I hadn't let myself grieve before. Not my mom. My dad. Because the man I'd been trying to please no longer existed, or maybe he never did. Then the text started. At first, they were polite. Just checking in. We should talk. Then they became guilt-laden. Family should support each other. Your mom would want us to work this out. That one made me see red. Then came the message that changed everything. Since you won't cooperate, we'll have to explore other options. I read it 3 times. Other options. 2 days later, a letter arrived. From a lawyer. And suddenly, the house wasn't just a home. It was a battlefield. I've always thought legal letters were supposed to look intimidating. Heavy wording. Threatening tone. Lots of, hereby, and, therefore. This one didn't need any of that. Because it wasn't threatening me. It was assuming I would comply. The letter stated, very politely, that my father and his wife intended to challenge my mother's will on the grounds that she was emotionally compromised during her illness and may have been unduly influenced by me. I sat at my kitchen table staring at those words until they stopped feeling real. Unduly influenced. Like I'd manipulated a dying woman into protecting her only child. I didn't cry. I didn't panic. I felt cold. Clear. Like something finally clicked into place. This wasn't about peace. This wasn't about the baby. This wasn't even about Dana. This was about control. I called the lawyer listed on the letter. Calmly. Politely. I asked a few questions. Then I called another lawyer. Then another. By the end of the week, I had one thing confirmed by 3 separate professionals. My mom's will was solid. Untouchable. And my father didn't have a case. What he did have was a fantasy that I would fold under pressure like I always had. So I stopped folding. I sent one email. Short. Clear. No emotion. I will not be signing any documents. Any further communication regarding the house or inheritance should go through my lawyer. I hit send. The silence afterward was loud. Then my phone exploded. Missed calls. Texts. Voicemails. All from my dad. Some from numbers I didn't recognize, relatives I hadn't heard from in years suddenly very concerned about family unity. One voicemail stood out. "You're being selfish," my dad said. His voice was tight, angry. "You're choosing a building over your own sister." My sister. A child he didn't want knowing I existed. I didn't respond. A week later, I came home from work and saw a car in my driveway. Their car. Dana was standing on the porch holding the baby. My father was pacing. My first instinct was to turn around and leave. My second instinct, the one that finally won, was anger. I parked. Dana smiled when she saw me. Not warm. Not friendly. Controlled. "We just want to talk," she said. "No," I replied. "You don't." My dad stepped forward. "Don't do this." "I'm not," I said. "You are. You showed up uninvited." Dana shifted the baby on her hip. "This doesn't have to be ugly." I laughed. "You sent a lawyer letter. It's already ugly." She frowned. "We're trying to think about what's best for our child." "Then stop using her as a shield," I said. That's when my dad snapped. "You have no idea what it's like to be responsible for a family." I stared at him. "You abandoned one." Silence. Dana's face hardened. "This house should be for her," she said, nodding at the baby. "Not someone who's just passing through life." That did it. I stepped closer. "This house belonged to my mother. She died in it. She left it to me. And you don't get to rewrite that because it's inconvenient." My dad pointed at the door. "We will take this to court." I smiled. "Please do." They didn't expect that. They expected tears. Begging. Guilt. What they got was paperwork. 2 days later, my lawyer sent their lawyer a formal response. 3 pages. Citations. Dates. Medical records confirming my mother's mental clarity. Witness statements. Then the final paragraph. A notice. Since my father and Dana had been staying overnight in the house without my permission during previous visits, something I hadn't known at the time, they were now formally barred from the property. Any further attempt to occupy it would be considered trespassing. I also included something else. An eviction notice. Because while they hadn't moved in officially, Dana had been storing baby furniture in the garage. My garage. They had 30 days. The reaction was nuclear. My phone rang non-stop. Relatives accused me of being heartless. My aunt told me I was punishing an innocent baby. My cousin said I was ruining my father's second chance. My dad left one final voicemail. "You're dead to me," he said. I listened to it twice. Then deleted it. 30 days passed. They didn't leave voluntarily. So I followed through. Sheriff. Paperwork. Locks changed. I stood across the street and watched them load boxes into their car. Dana was crying. My dad wouldn't look at me. The baby slept through all of it. And in that moment, something strange happened. I didn't feel victorious. I felt free. After they left, the house was silent in a way I'd never heard before. Not the heavy silence of grief. Not the tense silence after an argument. This was different. Clean. Like the air after a storm when everything ugly has already fallen. I walked through every room that night. Slowly. I touched the walls. The door frames. The kitchen counter where my mom used to lean while telling me stories she'd already told 100 times. I sat on the floor of her bedroom and let myself cry for the first time in months. Not because I felt guilty. Because I finally felt safe. The backlash came fast. Family members I barely remembered suddenly cared deeply about my choices. They told me I'd gone too far. That blood mattered more than paper. That I should have been the bigger person. Funny how being the bigger person always means being the quieter one. The one who gives up space. The one who loses. My aunt told me my mom would be ashamed. That was the moment I stopped listening. Because my mom didn't raise me to disappear to make other people comfortable. She raised me to stand on my own feet. And she knew my father. She knew exactly who he was when things got hard. That's why she protected me. A few weeks later, my dad sent one last message. No apology. No reflection. Just a single line. You've destroyed this family. I stared at it for a long time before replying. No. I just stopped letting you use me. Then I blocked him. Life didn't magically get better after that. I didn't suddenly feel healed. Some nights, I still catch myself wanting to call him. To say, Dad, like it used to mean something. But then I remember the look on his face when he asked me to stop. And I remember that love doesn't require erasure. The house still creaks at night. The floor still makes that sound near the hallway. Sometimes I swear I can hear my mom humming when the wind hits the windows just right. I kept her house. I kept her name. I kept myself. And if that makes me the villain in their story, I can live with that. Because for the first time in my life, I'm not living in someone else's shadow. I'm home.